Why does Splash Mountain matter to you?
So Splash Mountain is this great ride still at Disneyland, not there anymore at Walt Disney World as of like 2 weeks ago or something like that. I think anybody who's been to Disneyland or Walt Disney World is aware of the ride. It began in the 1990s, I think like early 90s, 92 or something like that, based on the, Brer Bear, Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, Uncle Remus tales, which are beloved tales and really represent, according to like, I've read enough of opinions of experts in children's literature. This is like one of the most important works of children's literature ever, Joel Chandler Harris's Uncle Remus tales. And Disney decided that they were somehow offensive, these, humorous tales that are rooted in slave folk tales. I mean, you'd think that they'd be celebrated as like we're bringing forward these folk tales of people whose stories are sometimes forgotten. And so they decided to shut down this ride, which, according to TripAdvisor, was the most popular ride at the Magic Kingdom. Pretty unbelievable you'd shut it down. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's one of the best examples of the hyper wokeness I've seen, and it really hasn't been publicized a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And it's so, I feel like fighting for Disney is like almost akin to fighting for baseball, Major League Baseball. It's such a key aspect of Americana. Mm-hmm. And I used to work, probably we were talking about earlier, I used to work at Disneyland as a ticket seller during graduate school. Mm-hmm. I loved it. I loved working at a job. And we used to have the cast members, as they called us, would have canoe races before the park opened around Tom Sawyer Island, and which has since been renamed to Disneyland, but still has the name Tom Sawyer Island at Walt Disney World, thankfully. Mm-hmm. And to get there in the morning before the park opened, we'd actually walk right through Splash Mountain, like through the bowels of it. And you'd see all the different parts of the ride from inside. And and I came across this great quote from Walt Disney recently. Back in, I think it was like 1957, he had a film he was introducing on his Disneyland television show called The Liberty Story, celebration of America's founding. And he said, as he introduced it, as you know, Disneyland is a kind of a monument to America and the American way of life. And I thought that's so perfect. That's what it is, right? Main Street USA and Frontierland and the great moments with Mr. Lincoln in Disneyland. And I mean, Walt Disney was just, I don't know that there's ever been a better example of the free enterprise system and what it can bring about than to have this one man's creativity create these wonderful things. And Disneyland and Walt Disney World are right at the pinnacle of it. And yet you have current Disney that's just the total opposite. And so, I mean, like with Splash Mountain, it's interesting that there was a petition in the aftermath of the George Floyd killing that about 20,000 people said, we need to close Splash Mountain down. And then another petition started up and about 100,000 people said, no, we need to keep Splash Mountain open. Disney decided, no,
and the complaint is because the song that plays is Song of the South?
Well, it's Zippity Doo Dah, which is an iconic song. I mean, like if the most iconic Disney songs are probably like Chim Chimmery, Zippity Doo Dah, both of which won Academy Awards for Best Song. Mm-hmm. And now they've purged that from the park. They won't play Zippity Doo Dah, which is you really be hard pressed to find anything offensive when you listen to Zippity Doo Dah. Disney's decided that the movie Song of the South is so offensive that any connection to it whatsoever must be purged. Walt must be rolling over his grave, but I mean, I feel like it's the job of people who love America to try to fight for Disney, not give up on it, because it really is important, I think. But they ought to be called out for this kind of stuff. I mean, it is crazy to shut down that ride. I would think that like if there were a nuclear holocaust or something, and aliens came in a couple 100 years and they tried to resurrect what had happened in America, and they saw newspaper clippings. They said Walt Disney World shut down this ride that was based on slave folk tales. Disney must have been racist, right? In the traditional sense of the word.
Yeah, no, it's wild, and it's a real shame. I mean, I have core memories growing up because we used to live in LA and then also lived in Georgia. So, driving down to Florida was super easy for a quick little vacation. I've probably ridden those rides dozen times.
What do you think of Splash Mountain?
It was great.
Yeah, it was one of the best.
I'm
right?
kind of a roller coaster head, so anything that gives me adrenaline is good. So, Splash Mountain's pretty tame, but still, it's, it's childhood right there. So it's a huge shame.